Welcome to Dublin. We're at the Innovation Summit 2018. I couldn't be happier that you're here. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Excellent, thanks.
Will you take just a quick second, introduce yourself, and let us know what your role is at Modius?
So my name is Jason McKeown. I'm a doctor, I'm a neuroscientist, and I'm also then CEO of Modius. And I suppose my background really, I worked as a doctor across the UK. I'm really interested in neurology and neuroscience, but I'm also really interested in technology. I'm actually the youngest scholar that's been invited out to the University of California in San Diego. So I have a visiting scholar position at the Center for Brain and Cognition. And what we do there is actually make old neurostimulation technology that would typically be implanted or really invasive technology, and we make that in a completely non-invasive sense that you can literally stick onto the body or place on the head or the skull, and it actually has the same applications as these really old, really invasive devices.
I'm already blown away. This is going to be a good one, I can tell.
Excellent, yeah.
You had mentioned that you have an interest in technology.
Yeah.
Did that interest start at an early age, or was there a specific event in your life that led you to the medical device field?
It's an interesting story actually. Whenever I was about maybe 13 or 14, I started actually building and selling computers. So you know, now that's pretty commonplace, but actually at that time there wasn't so many people doing it, never mind someone who's only sort of 13, 14. So I actually started a small business building and developing computers, sending them internationally. So I think it was that age that really, I suppose, made my foundation this love of technology. But then whenever it came to, I suppose, picking my sort of career, I had the choice between going down that sort of mechanical technology field or into medicine. And ultimately I would see the human body as the most complicated piece of technology that exists. So actually my love of technology and my love of, I suppose, helping people just made me go down into that medical field.
So who did you look to in your early career for inspiration, or was there anybody that you looked to?
Well, actually, in that field of neurology, one of the most interesting, I suppose, professors or lecturers of our generation is a guy, Professor Ramachandran, and he'd be really well known in the sort of neurology circles, particularly in California. And his book is Phantoms of the Brain. It actually talks about phantom limbs, and you may have heard of the mirror box where you can put in, you know, a hand. And so he actually invented that mirror box, and that is all his work. And it's actually, and this is my real passion, it's actually him who invited me out to be part of his lab at the University of California. So I now work under my inspiration out there, and we develop this technology together.
What did that feel like to admire somebody for so many years and then have them extend an invitation?
Yeah, it's pretty emotional, I suppose you could say. You know, it's also sort of validation that I was able to talk about the work that I was doing with the neurostimulation device. And to have someone of that, you know, status actually appreciate it and understand it, and then really invite you out to his lab to further that research. I mean, it's really sort of phenomenal feeling.
So let's talk about Modius a little bit. What's the story behind the company?
So the technology itself, neurostimulation, can really be used across a wide range of applications. So the old implanted devices, you know, we have FDA-approved devices for obesity, we have FDA-approved devices for arthritis, even into the areas of mental health like anxiety, depression, also even like migraine and epilepsy. So one piece of technology can actually treat across a wide range of seemingly unrelated diseases or applications. What we have done is actually take that technology right outside the body, and as I say, you can put it on the body and you can stimulate the same areas through the skin. And picking, I suppose, areas that we're interested in, Modius focuses very specifically on the area of metabolic health. So it stimulates the part of the brain that makes it difficult for people to lose weight. So typically what we see is whenever you stimulate that area, that people find a decrease in their appetite, their satiety or their feeling of fullness increases, and their sort of cravings or their desire to snack actually dramatically increases. So all of that coupled together actually makes the weight loss process much easier for someone who's trying to lose weight.
Where do I sign up? Take my money.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Modius, at what point did you realize, wow, we have something here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually our very early work which led up to Modius was around stroke rehabilitation. So there are certain types of stroke that respond very, very well to non-invasive neurostimulation. But when we were doing that, we actually realized we can stimulate the deeper, really important sort of crucial areas in the center of the brain, particularly the hypothalamus, which controls as I said, fat storage and muscle mass and bone density. And like any academic or medical device company, we look back at the early literature and we had a real light bulb moment when we discovered these really early NASA papers from about 50 years ago, where they had this consistent finding of decrease in body fat in animals, so even as low as 5%. And that was regardless of how much the food they actually ate or how much activity they were actually doing. So that's showing us for the very first time conclusively that vestibular stimulation actually has a direct effect on fat storage. So for us, that was the light bulb moment.
So you've mentioned that your technology has cross-market applications. Does it have any cross-industry applications?
Yeah, absolutely, and we've actually started early work looking at, believe it or not, sort of space flight or long-distance space travel. And to dive into the science a little behind this, the metabolism or that control center for your metabolic makeup and your energy balance, it actually controls not only fat storage but muscle mass and bone density. So if you actually change the settings for overall metabolism, you actually can't just change one, you must affect all three. And really early work that's done in the area that we are in, whenever you actually change the settings to decrease fat, you actually increase muscle mass and increase bone density. So one of the cross-industry applications would be for long-distance space travel. Actually, an issue is that you lose muscle mass and you can see osteoporosis. So that is something we are working to actually make a device which will protect against that. So that's something we're very excited about.
So going back to Modius, what was your #1 priority when building the initial team?
So, I'm really, really passionate actually about helping people and making really positive changes, and that is one of the reasons why I become a doctor in the first place. So whenever we were reaching out to actually build the team, that was a really key part. So yes, obviously, strong commercial experience and the idea that we could build a really global brand, but a cornerstone of what we were doing had to be this idea that we can really help global, big, significant problems.
What was the last milestone that Modius achieved?
So a really big thing for us, and quite an unusual thing actually, is that although we have this medical device path where you do the initial theoretical work and pilot studies and then you move into clinical trials and finally approval, we actually do have that running, but because the device is such a low risk, completely non-invasive wearable, or actually we call it a careable active device, because of that we were able to go into the consumer space immediately. So you might be familiar with a platform called Indiegogo. It's a bit like a Kickstarter, a crowdfunding campaign. So we went on there August 2017, and we were pretty open and said, look, we're building this as a medical device. The pilot's data is really compelling, but it's still, it's not enough to really roll out into the consumer world. So we want maybe 100 people to buy the device heavily discounted on Indiegogo and feed back to us. We just want the data back, and if they're not happy with the device, we'll give it back to them. Or we'll give them money back. So we set the target as I think $50,000. Within 4 hours, we had hit $50,000. Within our first week, we had hit over $1 million. And then actually at that stage, we had to try and slow it down. So we pushed our delivery dates right back, and actually we started to take the discount off. Even with that, we still raised over $2 million. So for us, that was a massive, in the consumer sector, a massive milestone. And then actually, a part added on to that is the data that we have collected from that group, over 6,000 users. It has been so compelling from a weight loss point of view that we're now just really, really positive and really excited about the development of Modius going forward.
Looking ahead, what's Modius's 2018 priorities?
So you could really split what we're doing into two. Obviously the clinical trials and getting the approval across various territories is a big part of that. So we have multi-centered trials in the US, in the UK, and actually further afield, looking at the more strict medical route. But then parallel to that, we've got this really exciting consumer route, and that is where Modius sits. So a big thing in that consumer path is we've had orders from 84 different countries. We're actually actively fulfilling that. We're getting the device out there, and then just as a doctor and as CEO of Modius, for me, I feel that my role is twofold. We're seeing about 80% of people see significant weight loss. So I have to find out how do we improve the weight loss for that 80%, and how do we get the other remaining 20% to actually start to see weight loss. So it's a really, really exciting time, and we're really excited about the years ahead.
I'm excited for you. I can feel the passion from here. What are you specifically looking for in a strategic partner?
So as I say, it's such an exciting time for us now. You know, the company's really starting to grow and we're becoming more an international company. So we would be looking for a partner who's familiar with certainly the medical device space in the areas of, you know, metabolic disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, but also a strategic partner in the consumer space who understands that, you know, we can go direct to consumer and that this is really a unique opportunity that's not often seen in the medical device space. I think the next thing in our calendar is really our Series A funding round, and that is literally just kicked off now. So we've been reaching out to various VCs, various strategic partners. We've actually got a lot of very early positive traction, so it's something we're very excited about. And if there were someone in that space who is interested, you know, we would love them to reach out and we'd take discussions further.
Thank you, Jason, for being with us today. Really appreciate your time, and I'm excited to see what you come up with.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.